All right, what is up, everyone? I know it's not the greatest lighting out here, but you get a cool background at least, so it's a good deal. It's been really awesome so far. I have a lot of questions about this process, some things I want to share with you, and we'll just hop right into it. I actually take notes, by the way, when I do this because you kind of forget what you do during the week. As weird as that sounds, you're always biased towards what you did last. So you think, well, oh, what did I do this week? If today's a Saturday, I just kind of resort to like, oh, Friday and Thursday I did this. But it's important that when you do your training process and what you do in your workouts or whatever it might be, that what you do, like, or how you reflect or what you perform on a Monday should be appraised by that Monday. Because by Friday, and you think about that Monday, you're going to judge it differently. Okay, if you're always bugs flying around, sorry. If you're really fresh on a Monday and you jump really high, some birds fighting right there, crazy nature right now. You feel really good on a Monday, and then by Friday you perform a workout. You're gonna think for some reason that Monday you didn't do as well. Crazy, these birds are just fighting right outside of the camera. You can probably hear them. Super distracting. So you're gonna think like, oh, I didn't perform that well on Monday. And so sometimes it's nice to go back and look at your videos and see how you did, how you performed, how you shot. And it's important for twofold. One, because you could misjudge it and think you did worse or better, but also come next Monday, you can look at it again. And it's weirdly helpful because as a player, or someone who's trying to be a professional player, if you have a bad day, like on a Thursday or Friday, then those Mondays and Tuesdays, even though they might have been good days, are mentally now a bad day. And you just totally blur your entire state of progress. And when you do that, you start to change your program, you start to change what you do, or you might bias yourself to try and make your workout feel better next time. Like, oh, I want to make more shots, whatever it might be. Just a little bit of advice, which is why these videos are kind of cool sometimes for myself, because they give me an understanding of where I've been. I actually went and watched a couple of the old videos I posted when I first started this process, and it's kind of funny to see the progress. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So first I want to talk about what's going on. Obviously the TBT stuff, I never even thought about doing that stuff. So TBT is the basketball tournament, and they host it in July. I think it's after Summer League now. It used to be before. I don't know. End of July, August. They play for like, I don't know, what is it, $1 million? And then they have a bunch of teams that go into it. And it's on ESPN. It's a pretty cool deal. They have like Kentucky teams and like Wichita State teams and so on and so forth. And all these teams play and they compete. I never even consider that as an option to play domestically. It'd be really cool because that's a competitive professional level of basketball. And playing in that would make me feel pretty accomplished as a player to be able to do that. And so that would be a cool, box to check off if I could do that. And even good test to see if I'm even good enough. So I reached out a couple of teams. I reached out to a couple more. I missed one of the tryouts. It was in New York. Short notice, didn't realize it was today, and I asked yesterday. Oops. But we'll continue to move on from there, and that's an option I'll explore. Another option is people reached out about some overseas invites. I just don't know how reasonable going to a showcase overseas is. And a lot of it comes down to finances and time and travel. Like if I go to Melbourne, Australia, that's like a 6-day, 7-day process even. If I'm gonna really compete there, I can't just fly in and the next day play. I'd probably fly in a couple days ahead, play, and then go from there. But it just, the price of hotels become a lot, food's become a lot, and there's a lot of obstacles in this process, which is why, again, I'm trying to leverage this platform. And I know people say you have to play 5-on-5, you need to showcase your 5-on-5. Yeah. Where I play right now, what I'm doing right now, I'm not able to, I'm not gonna show that footage for several reasons. Mainly because people don't, like, some of these videos get lots of views, maybe 1 million views. And if someone, let's say I'm playing with someone who's a professional athlete, right, and I score them, I've talked about this last video, they don't want to be seen on there. And so I need to get some stuff privately to share, but publicly a lot less unless I go play at like a open gym that I'm familiar with everybody and they know what I'm doing. So now I gotta look into some domestic options. And I think in the summer I might go some places, maybe LA, maybe even Miami, and just play against people, because the goal is to see if I can become a pro. Now, I would love to get a pro contract, it would be very cool, but I also want to see if I'm good enough to be one. Getting a pro contract isn't guaranteed every time, but you can be good enough as a pro and still not get a pro contract. And again, the goal is to try out for those G League teams as well. So, as a athlete, played in college, and then I go into this world of training people, I didn't realize how much I pushed back my competitiveness. And so I've had to train to be competitive again. So let me explain. So when I first played 5-on-5, the first time I did it, I didn't really care about competing at all. I just wanted to play. I know that sounds really weird. I knew if I just tried to compete and do my absolute best, and the first time playing competitive 5-on-5 like that in a while, I'd be really frustrated. So I went in with the mindset, I just want to play, kind of like getting your feet wet in a pool, just to get used to it. No expectations. And then as I've gone back, I've had to mentally be, all right, I'm going to compete and try and do this and try and do this. And I don't just mean compete in terms of, I'm trying to win, but playing through a possession. Because even in an open gym or pickup, it's easy to kind of guard the first action or, be good enough, but to really fight through stuff. And when I work out with Trey, this is one of the things I talk about to him is like, look, I might not stop you on every move, probably not going to, but I want to compete through every move. So if he beats me on a spin, can I come back and recover? The other day he almost dunked on me, right? He had a spin move and then he had a space to dunk on me, but I got back and contested. Did I foul him? Yes. Did he dunk on me? No. Was I there to compete? Absolutely. So that's the whole process of like competing again. And I know it sounds so weird. It sounds really bizarre. Like, oh, don't you want to compete? There's a difference between wanting to win and competing. So a lot of times you can compete, you can get the ball, you want to score, and it's frustrating when you lose. But to compete sometimes, regardless of the outcome of the score, you just play through it. That's what I've learned quite a bit from just working with some guys and watching pro games and working with pros, is that the ability to compete makes up for a lot of things, whether it's weak side recovery, whether it's helping your teammates out. It's a skill that is not trained anymore. It's so frustrating. There are some guys who compete really well. If you watch the playoffs and you watch the New York Knicks playing the Pacers, TJ McConnell competes. That guy competes so hard. He's not the most skilled. He's not the most athletic. He's very, very quick, mind you, but he competes. And there are certain guys who are far more talented than him, far more talented, who just do not compete consistently. Because what happens is when you play a game, if someone's at their 100%, and you're at your 100%, and this person's more talented, they're going to win every time. But this person varies in their ability based on their competitiveness. They go down to 60, 40, 50, 70, and you're always at 90 or 100. You eventually will edge them out. And over time, you have a differentiation between the two. So like, they might go here and you might go here, and then you have a gap, and then you are better than them. You might not be better than them in like the traditional social media one-on-one sense, but you compete and you provide more value. So kind of a corollary to that, you compete by playing your game. Like if you watch McConnell play, he plays his game. He doesn't shoot threes because he's not a great three-point shooter. Josh Hart does the same thing. He plays his game. And your game is dependent on you. Too many people nowadays want to develop a game versus play their game. If you're a three-point shooter, you create stress on the defense by shooting three-pointers. And then if you make threes, they close out closer to you, and by default you have more space to score. That is going to lead to stressing the defense because you've created leverage by playing your game, the threat of shooting a basketball. The inverse is true. If you're someone who drives a lot, someone like TJ McConnell, who drives a lot and drives a lot to the hoop, well, they start to back off of him, and it makes what is a not so great shot for him, which is slightly contested jump shot, a much better shot when it's less contested because they're backing up because they're concerned about it. So it's like two sides of the same coin. You can create space by, leaning into your superpower, which then makes your weakness not so weak. If I'm bad at driving to the hoop, if I keep shooting really well, they have to get closer to me. And when they close out really fast, it's really easy to drive to the hoop. So playing to your strengths. If you guys are curious, by the way, too, I'm happy to do some like basketball analysis and like skills, not skills breakdown, but just, a little more sports talk as well. Because some of that stuff is really interesting when you watch professional level basketball versus high school and college. It's a job at the professional level for these guys, and they really have to find a way to compete in their job setting. They might be a janitor, but they gotta be the best janitor in the world because they'll make a ton of money. So that's kind of what's going on. Let's talk about a little bit of what I've done and what I did. And people will ask time and time again about my diet. And I want to share some stuff with you guys there because they saw me get lean. They have lots of questions. But when it comes to, I don't even like to use the word dieting, fueling yourself during a day, think about it in 3 ways. The first way is what you're going to do, what you're going to recover from, and then what you're going to do the next day. I know it sounds kind of redundant, but it makes each meal its own purpose versus being like, I need 2,000 calories, and you just try and get that in an arbitrary fashion. Because if I'm an athlete, I might work out 3 times in a day. And if I'm just gonna get all my calories at the end of the day, well, I'm pretty depleted throughout the day then. So if I want to eat to fuel and eat to recover and then eat to get ready, that gives a purpose to each meal, and that starts to dictate how you eat. Now, each kind of macronutrient has its own process in which it gets digested in your body. Certain sugars that are digested quickly have a high glycemic index. And those are the foods that you eat, or you call it glycemic load, I guess is more appropriate nowadays, which is takes in the totality of the food itself. That's how fast the food becomes glucose in your body. So if I'm close to a workout, I want foods that have a higher glycemic load. I don't want high fat foods if I'm close to a workout because fats take longer to digest. I want it in my system, digested and out into my, my physiological utility system in my muscles and the blood, so it can be used. I don't want it sitting there digesting. So things that have high in fiber, things that are high in fat are slower digesting. Things that are whole grains are slower digesting. Things that are like white rice is like one of the very fast glycemic load foods. For me, eggs as a protein tends to be really easy to digest, and so for my pre-workout meal, that's what I eat at the beginning of the day. My biggest meal is a meal I know I can digest. It doesn't bother me at all. And then throughout the day, I prefer smaller meals dedicated to based on what I'm trying to do. If I just worked out, I want some protein. If I have a 2-hour window before my next workout, I might eat more fats and fibers then. If I only have a half-hour workout, I might eat something very quick digesting protein, like a whey protein powder, and maybe even some cereal or just some bread. You probably see me eat just a tortilla and a little bit of beef because that's not going to place too much load on my system. I'm not going to go and eat a giant salad that has tons of foliage and tons of fiber. That's going to weigh me down, maybe eat a whole bunch of almonds or something. So yes, there's like the dietary aspect of what you can eat and tolerate in terms of calories, but also the types of calories, well, the macro makeup, I should say, that come from really makes a big difference. Certain people do well or less well with coffee and caffeine. I do pretty well, so I can consume it pretty readily, while others don't tolerate it as well. Certain dairy products, certain people tolerate well, and certain people don't tolerate well. Certain fruits might be more fibrous, things like mangoes, while certain fruits may be less fibrous when they're blended. So if you take a food and you eat it as a whole, like an apple, versus a puree versus a smoothie, the smoothie will get into your blood system the quickest. When it's a juice, I should say a juice. When it's like pureed, it gets second quickest, and when it's eaten as a whole, it's least quickest. And the reason why is it has to go through the digestion process. That fiber has not been broken down on the apple skin itself and within the apple fibers, but when it's juicified, it's way quicker. And so there's little hacks and tricks you can do to get through, get your favorite fruits in and get your, whatever nutrients you need in, but in a form that maybe is more conducive to the workout that you're trying to actually do. So certain things like that make sense to me and what I try and do. But again, a lot of it is trial and error as well. What foods fill you up and fuel you up. It's really important to consider. Like, I can eat ice cream and go work out. I know it sounds crazy. Not everyone else can. I can't sometimes eat a smoothie and go work out, but I know a lot of people who do. So finding foods that work for you, trial and error. If you have a big event, don't try something new on that event. You should have tried it beforehand. And then I want to, lastly, don't get obsessed with like the actual aesthetic as an outcome. Well, it becomes sometimes a symptom of the training. If you just try and get lean, it sometimes will cause suffering in your training because you're sacrificing nutrients that you need for the sake of a result that isn't actually a result for sake of a symptom that's not a result, if that makes sense. So like if I get in better shape, a symptom of getting in shape might be lower body fat percentage. If I just try and get to lower body fat percentage, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily in shape. Remember, when you are working out, you're rebuilding your tissues, and so you need fuel. I'd rather slightly overeat by a bit during heavy training cycles so I can train time after time again than undereat. I think I want to stop there for the dieting part. There's a couple other things people have asked, you know, what do I eat? And I'll break that down real quick. So like if I wake up in the morning, I have my fried rice and eggs. Lots of butter in that fried rice because I love it. Kerrygold butter, phenomenal. Basically 1.5 cups to 2 cups of rice fried and eggs. I started doing that because I make my breakfast for my family as well and get them ready. And I ended up putting rice in one day to warm it up, and I left it in there and it got fried and I really liked it. And so now I can start it. It takes a little bit of time, but it works for me. Then I'll have my workout. I'll have coffee with that. And then I'll have my workout. And after my workout, I'll try and get a banana. I'll try to get some sort of protein, maybe my post-workout shake, which is collagen from Upper Echelon, creatine. We have egg whites. We have a cup of Greek yogurt. We have some mangoes. I don't eat protein powder there because I have a sufficient amount of protein there. I'll save protein powder later in the day. And then maybe I'll have some like, depends if I'm going to go work out right after that. I might do, let's say that's at like 11. Sometimes I eat like chicken nuggets or something really small protein-based food. Chicken nuggets. I have a kid, so that's what we have in the freezer. And then maybe around 12, we might do like a lift, and I might not, or I might eat around there. After that, depends if I go back. So I might lift like at 12, then go back to the gym at 1. So that the 12 o'clock lift is so quick. I might not have to like prep at all. And I might just eat like, I might have like a Gatorade or something during that time. Something quick and easy, and then go work out for another couple hours. Then after that, I'll try and eat a larger meal because I'm near the end of the day. And if I do anything in the evening, I'm not really eating around it because I'm not trying to break a sweat too much. And for dinner, I'll eat based on hunger and availability, but I need to make sure I get my carbs. I've under-eaten protein, I've under-eaten fats, minimal acute repercussions. You don't have like, oh, I'm groggy. The biggest grogginess comes from not eating enough carbs. That's the biggest mistake I made time and time again. So having bananas around, bread around, toast and jam or jelly, noodles, whatever it might be. If I don't eat enough carbs, it will cause issues. So, and even on off days too, I just don't want to be like not eating carbs during my off days and come back Monday and be carb depleted just because I wasn't working out as much and I don't eat as many carbs and I go work out again and I'm like, oh, I feel horrible and I'm trying to catch back up. You don't want to try and catch back up. You want to just be in the right percent level the whole time. Again, not afraid to overeat a bit, especially once you become leaner because you're trying to rebuild those tissues. So I hope that makes sense. I appreciate you all listening and I hope you all enjoyed.